Welcome back to the Custom Journeys podcast. If this is your first time joining, my name is Andrew Baines, and this channel is all about helping you all start or progress your career in STEM, and then also introducing you all to some great diverse STEM professionals that are out there in the world already. I wanted to share a video recording from a tech panel that I hosted at Houston Community College, where me and a diverse panel of talented individuals talked about our careers in STEM and how we found success. On the panel, we had Castro. He's a civil engineer by trade and works as a project manager at LJ Engineering. We also had Tiana Morrison, who has a background in computer science from Prairie View A&M and is a tech professional at HP. And then last but not least, we had Danyal Mahmud, who works as a senior software engineering consultant at Improving. I felt like this is a great video, an opportunity for you guys to get some advice on how to begin your career or progress your career if you're looking to break into STEM, and then also give you guys some insight about what are some different career opportunities out there that you may not be aware of. So I hope you guys find this video valuable. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done so. You're really missing out if you haven't, by the way. And then last but not least, like the video, share it with a friend. And now I'll let you go ahead and get into it. How's everybody doing today? All right, cool. I appreciate everybody talking back to me, you know. I want to make this as interactive as we can make it, right? So I did my best to assemble this dream team of panelists that can talk about their engineering and software engineering experience. And I think, number one, I should really commend you all for taking time out of your day to come in here, because I promise you the things that you learn outside of the classroom are going to be even more important than what you learn in the classroom. So you can spend your time doing integrals and derivatives and all that good stuff, but if you don't have the network and if you don't have the knowledge about how to apply everything you learn, then your career is going to have a much harder time being successful. So again, thank you all for coming out. So as Ms. Thomas said, my name is Andrew Baines. I did assemble a great team of panelists here. I'm going to take a minute to kind of introduce all of them one by one. My background is mechanical engineering. I attended the University of Texas, San Antonio. I got a bachelor's and a master's in mechanical engineering. Wanted to work in the automotive field, so I moved up to Detroit, working for General Motors. Did that for about 3 years, then I moved back down here to Houston, which is where I'm from, and I currently work at Rice University in a cancer research lab. So basically we build patient-specific hip implants, we build computer models for people, but the reason why I'm here today is because this is the most passionate thing that I do. So I'm really passionate about increasing diversity within tech and within STEM, and collaborating with individuals that have the same idea and same mindset. So I reached out to these three lovely individuals and they all agreed to come on the panel. I kind of already talked about myself. If you want to scan the QR codes to check out a landing page or check out my LinkedIn profile and connect with me, you're more than welcome to. And I can also pull this up later on at the end of the talk as well. But now I want to talk about these three individuals in front of you. So to kick it off, we got Tiana Morrison, also known as Timo, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so Tiana, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So hello everybody, my name is Tiana Morrison. As Andrew said, I also go by Timo or T. You can call me Tiana as well, so not that big a deal. Currently right now work for HP Inc. in Spring, Texas, their new location as a service info developer 2 and also a license manager. I graduated from Prairie View A&M University in 2020, which is the HBCU. And I studied computer science, so I have a bachelor's in computer science, and had a couple of internships throughout my school year as well. So I had 3 paid internships as well that I was doing some development and things like that. Last internship was with HP, so I got converted over. Been working for HP for about 2 years now. Very awesome company. And as of right now, I'm here as well, just like Andrew said, because it's one of my biggest passions to talk about tech and also diversity in tech. And just outside of all, just kind of making sure that people are aware of how you can get into it, how you can break into tech, and also just giving my stories and things like that to help others that probably went down my same path. So thanks everybody for being here. I'm ready for the questions.
Awesome. And let me give y'all a cheat code to life. Like, the QR code is up there for a reason. Make sure you scan it. And so like after this is over,
oh yes, please.
You tell Tiana like, yo, I love your panel presentation, da 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 da. Send her a connection request, follow up, say, hey, do you have any jobs, any internships at HP? Or can you connect me with so-and-so? So I just want to make sure this is a learning experience for you guys so you guys know to take advantage of certain opportunities in front of you. So that's Tiana's QR code for her LinkedIn profile. Next up, we got my boy Castro. We both attended UTSA together, go Runners. Right. Joel, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
So my name is Castro, as you can see. I graduated from UT San Antonio in 2014 with a bachelor's in civil engineering. I then went on to receive my MBA from the University of Houston in 2020. I currently work at LJA Engineering as a project manager in land development, and that's
Awesome.
pretty much it. Yeah.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. And again, his LinkedIn profile is up there on the screen. Give you one more second, and then we'll go on to, last but not least, Mr. Danyal. Mahmud.
Hi everyone. So my name's Danyal. It's like Don, y'all. You know, we're in Texas, y'all. It's really funny. You guys should start laughing more often. But yeah, I'm Danyal. So I've been a software developer now for about 9 years. Right now I work at Improving. We're a consultancy, so I'm a senior software engineering consultant. So if you have questions about what a consultant is versus just a normal developer, it's a little bit different, but sort of the same thing. So I'm doing that right now, and as you can see up there also, it says SPS. That's a community that myself and a few of my colleagues created, Side Project Society. So that's a place where people that are working on cool projects, that are building something, can come together to share what they're working on, get some feedback, and ultimately launch their project. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me afterwards, or if you have questions about being a software developer, also feel free to reach out. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a good way to reach me. So yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Danyal. All right. So why are we here? So I really thought about a lot of different things about how you guys could have a successful career and what's some of the information that each of us wish we would have had when we were in your seats currently. And so we're going to kind of talk about 4 different things, but 4 different segments, but a lot of different topics, and answer a lot of questions that you guys may have about having a successful career, and kind of give you a roadmap to get from where you're at to where you want to be in your STEM or tech or engineering career field. So to kind of start off, this is like the roadmap we're going to take. So number 1, we're going to start with like a self-assessment, looking at what your interests are, what you're passionate about, what's your current skill set. Then look at like opportunities to improve your skill set, and also joining communities that can help you, like the SPS, like Free Code Camp, like any kind of networking communities and events you guys can attend regularly. And then lastly, give you a few tips for landing the job. So to kick it off, I'm gonna kick it off with Joel. And so talking about self-assessment, I think it's really important for you guys to figure out what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. So Joel, you're a project manager, also a civil engineering student, graduate from the University of Texas, San Antonio.
That's right.
Can you kind of tell us how you decided to pursue civil engineering?
Yeah, I guess it all started, at a summer camp I went to. It was an engineering summer camp I had the opportunity to go to at UT Austin, which I was exposed to the various branches of engineering. I fell on civil engineering because it just seemed like the most direct way to, I guess, help the community, right? Make an impact, improve my community, help it grow through the application of mathematics. So that really resonated with me, and that's why I chose civil engineering.
Gotcha. And can you also tell us a little bit about your role currently as a project manager?
Yes, so like I mentioned, I'm a project manager at LJA. So we provide several engineering services. I work in land development. We do the design and construction of the infrastructure that supports single-family residential neighborhoods, like the Woodlands or Bridgeland. Those are just an example. These neighborhoods can range from just a couple hundred homes to several thousand, right? Master plan communities. So I manage a team of 3 to 5 graduate engineers. It kind of just changes. We have people move around within groups. And I do a lot of cross-functional management, internal and external, meaning that I work with our support groups, transportation, flood mitigation, those guys. And I also interact a lot with the special districts, the attorneys that represent these districts, the developers, right, the guys that go out there and buy the land. And yeah, just a lot of heavy management, heavy managing of limited resources, right, staff, time, and managing of competing priorities.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Miss Tiana, so while you were at college, we know you're a computer science graduate. You were one of the people that probably have the most internships I've seen throughout your college career. I only got a chance to get 1 internship in college. You had 3, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So can you kind of talk about the importance of internships and kind of how that helped you decide if you wanted to be a coder each and every day or a manager, or helping you pick the right path for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's always good to explore your options, and that's kind of what I've done. I didn't really stay stagnant at a company. I just tried to move around and do different roles. So, like for example, my first internship that I had was in Las Vegas. I worked for Allegiant, the travel company, and I was a software developer and test. So I was coding every day, in and out, and I caught Bell Palsy. I was so stressed out because I went to Prairie View and we weren't really doing a lot of developmental stuff. I didn't even know how to set up an IDE, which is where you go and code, like your environment where you go and code. So it was a lot of things I had to pick up. But at the end of the day, at the end of the internship, I done very, very well, performed very well, but I did pick up like, okay, well, I don't know if I want to do something this stressful and this challenging. So my next internship, I worked for McAfee, which is a cybersecurity company. I was in Silicon Valley, and I was still coding, but I was doing automation coding. So that kind of is more like on the back end, and you're able to just see the UI run on the side of your code. So I kind of like that a little better. It was a little less stress, but I still had that fulfillment of coding. So I really like that, and I took that with me, and I still do automation and things today. So I know that stuck with me for sure, because I know I still loved what I'd done, but it wasn't too easy for me. I always like a challenge, so that's kind of why I kind of stuck with automation. And then with HP, which was my last internship, I was a HP DaaS onboarding solutions engineer. So once again, coding, I was supposed to be coding a OData 2.0 authenticator, which would connect two different platforms together. One platform, Power BI, the other platform, a platform that HP provides. And that was a little bit coding, a little bit of automation and things like that as well. So I kind of picked that and went from there because you never want to do something that's going to stress you out. And then also you always still want to be challenged. So that automation is kind of what made me fall right in between and still be satisfied.
Gotcha. Awesome. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important, like you said, to kind of really use these experiences in your time in college to kind of figure out what you want to do. So take advantage of, you have different classes you try, see what you like, what you don't like. And like Tiana, in her example, take as many internships as you can. Hopefully they're paid, but do as many as you can to kind of figure out what's the right path for you. And so now, kind of talking about finding your way, Danyal, you probably have like one of the most non-traditional pathways to your current role that I know. Can you talk about the different opportunities that you've had throughout your career and how those informed your decision? Because you were once upon a time a UH student and also an HCC student, but now you're a senior software engineer. So how did all these different opportunities and then that you've had kind of help you decide to be a software engineer?
Well, you know, it's like, you know, everything you do in your life leads to this moment, right?
Yeah.
So like, in a sense, everything led me to being a software engineer. But for me to understand how I got here and why that might not be expected from people that knew me is to realize when I first got into coding, my first experience was in high school. I took a AP computer science class, and I hated it. It was the worst thing on the planet, and it was super boring. My teacher was like 85 years old, and he couldn't care less. I don't even know if he'd ever coded professionally. So it was a blow-off class, and I thought it was boring, and I didn't want to do it. But you know, I could not have seen myself being a software developer now. In fact, so when I went to college, I went to, right after high school actually, I went to Taylor High School. So I see someone repping Taylor. So I graduated, I went to U of H. I thought I have to pick a business major, so I decided accounting, right? Because accountants make money. So I signed up for accounting, realized that I didn't want to be an accountant really quickly. At the same time, my freshman year, I started a business at U of H, and you know, I needed to create a website, but I was not technical at all. Like, I used to type with 2 fingers. Like, that was me when I was like 19. So I was not technically savvy at all. I knew very little about computers, and I needed to create this website. So I hired these people, and they basically scammed me. They built me like a really simple website, charged me $1,000. Nowadays, you can make that for like $10 with WordPress. But through there, I was like, okay, I need to learn some basic programming skills in order to get my website up. So I learned a little bit online, some JavaScript, and that sort of was like, it sort of started to click for me. I was like, okay, this is what programming can do. It's not just like writing Java programs that are really boring in high school. So from there, I did that for a little bit. Eventually, I took some retail jobs. I worked at a grocery store as a bagger. That helped me realize I do not want to be a bagger. Retail jobs absolutely suck. Some of you are nodding your head. Y'all agree, y'all know. They're absolutely terrible. People are great, but sometimes they're not. So from there, I was working as a bagger, and then I really couldn't see myself doing that for much longer. And then I had a friend who told me about this coding boot camp that was starting up. And so this was like when coding boot camps were like brand new. They weren't like commonplace like they are now. And so it was brand new to Houston. I think it was like one of the first ones. So it was literally like, hey, $1,000 because, you know, this is the first time they've ever done it. So I signed up, and through there I learned a little bit more. I built onto the skills that I'd already developed, and I was able to get a job through there. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And yeah, all those experiences sort of taught me, like, you know, don't be a bagger at a grocery store, be a software developer. So here I am.
Great lessons. No, I think people can be like the best and the worst part of some jobs. And I mean, they can make your life really easy or really hard. Yeah. But I think the cool thing about your story, Danyal, is that like we all have this idea of like where our life and our career should be at 25 or at 30 or at 35. But
so I used to tell myself, I had a friend, we wanted to, you know, become millionaires and billionaires. And I told him, like, if I'm not a millionaire by 25, then my life is ruined. Obviously, I'm not a millionaire now, so I take that statement back, but yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's important for you guys to keep that in mind. Like, as you're figuring things out, figuring out what's the right path for you, like, set a goal, go for it. But if you find out that's not what you're interested in, that's not what you're passionate about, feel free to pivot and adjust and kind of keep learning skills as you go throughout it. Go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, just kind of add on to that. When I was an undergrad, I always thought that I would go back to school for environmental engineering. That's like a subcategory of civil. By the time I graduated, I was like, there's no way. And I ended up going back to school for a business degree. So your interests will change as you progress through your career.
Great point. Yeah. I think I knew by the second year of grad school in engineering that I didn't want to be an engineer anymore. Yeah. So life is crazy. But I did want to just throw out a few different job opportunities that are both on the technical track and the non-technical track. And I shouldn't say technical, but some require coding, like physical coding, like a software engineer. Some are more design-based, or they can be like a sales engineering role. The whole point of this is that, in my opinion, I think starting off with a STEM, engineering, or a tech or a software engineering role is the best starting point, because there's no room you're going to be able to go into and somebody's going to say, hey, you're not smart enough to be in here, or you don't know the technical details that goes on behind this. So you can always pivot, in my opinion, from a tech role, whether he wants to go from a software engineering role to a sales engineering, or Joel's now a manager. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're figuring out, hey, do I want to go the purely coding route, or do I want to go like more the business route? I think it's great to kind of have the technical foundation and then go into the business management role. But to each his own. You got to kind of figure out your own journey and your pathway. All right, and then also I did want to throw these up there since I did have workforce development or skills. I think, and feel free, Danyal, Tiana, Joel, to chime in, but I think it's really important for you guys to realize that your education or learning does not stop once you graduate from HCC or wherever you do next after this. Like, you need to be continuously learning, whether you're paying for it or just learning on your own, because that's going to really help determine the trajectory of your career. There's a lot of different programs out there. I love freecodecamp.org. That's really how I got introduced to improving. I would go there like once a month and do their meetup where I would learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS. But there's all kinds of programs out there, some paid, some free, that you guys can check out. I don't know if you guys have any you want to add.
Yeah, so I know I like W3 Schools. I also like Code Academy. So those are some things that I use as well. And just to continue to just go on like resources and things like that, kind of how I obtained the internships that I got. I was doing side projects, not that they were like super rigorous, but I was like building, websites in HTML and CSS, which is very basic. But it also showed that I was able to do something. So it kind of set me apart of other things as well. So you always kind of want to build up your outside things outside of the classroom. Because just like Andrew said, back when we first started, you will learn a lot more outside of the classroom than what you will learn from inside. So.
And just to chime in, obviously I'm biased with Side Project Society, but I think side projects are the way to go. You're going to learn more outside of work at the beginning. Well, you're going to learn a lot at work too. It's not enough to just learn the skills. You have to apply them. That's how they're going to stick. So when you go and you start getting your first tech jobs or whatever, you're not going to be able to do everything that you practiced, right? You're going to be working on a very small subset of the entire system. They're not going to let a junior dev handle every single part of the application. It's not feasible. So work often forces you to specialize in whatever the need of the business is. So you need to continue to develop your skills so that you're not forced down a path, and instead you can choose what you want. So I personally use Udemy. I have a subscription. I take a lot of courses on there, and it keeps me fresh. So I really like it.
How much is a subscription?
Subscription. I pay for whatever courses come up, but I wait till they're on sale. Never pay the full price.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
I pay like $8 for like a 30-hour course. It's pretty great.
And also Stack Overflow and Geeks for Geeks, just for, I know that's homework help and stuff like
Also
that.
Reddit is a big community.
I just downloaded
it's a lot friendlier than Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is great, but
yeah, it's people that's
they're gonna yell at you for doing the wrong thing.
Definitely.
Use Reddit. It's easier.
All right, cool. And then Danyal, I got a follow-up question for you. You mentioned that you did a coding boot camp when it was kind of new to Houston. And I know coding boot camps are really popular. Yeah, they don't really exist for $1,000 anymore. They're like 15 grand. But I've heard of college graduates going and signing up for them. I've heard of like computer science major students that sign up for boot camps as well.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's thinking about a coding boot camp, in your opinion, is it worth the investment, both from a monetary standpoint and from a time standpoint?
Well, in my opinion, obviously it was worth it, right? Because it helped me get my foot in the door, and I got a job, and 9-10 years later, I'm still doing it. But yeah, like when I went, there was people from various backgrounds, like people that had like a liberal arts degree, and they never had done any coding, and then people that had gone to computer science degree, but they couldn't find a job, or they didn't have those skills to be employed. So I think it can be worth it. A coding boot camp basically puts you under the wing of like a mentor or someone that can teach you the right way to do things. That's invaluable, because when you're first starting, you don't even know what you don't know. So you need someone to explain to you, this is what's out there, and this is where you are, and this is what you need to learn. It's super valuable. Obviously though, I paid $1,000. I think even a few months after I finished it, they jacked the price up to like $18,000. So it wouldn't have been worth it for me at that point. I didn't have $18,000, so it all depends on your situation. I would say nowadays with all the free resources, you can probably get away with just just learning on your own. I would say join a community. That would help a lot. That's the biggest thing about the boot camp. You're with other people that are doing it. So if you really want to just, if you have $18,000 lying around and you want to spend it, go for boot camp, or give it to me and I'll teach you. I'll do it for free. Well, for $18,000. Yeah, it can be worth it depending on your situation. But I think nowadays with the amount of resources like Free Code Camp or Code Academy or whatever, there's so many like really in-depth courses out there. You can probably get away with it for free. Mm-hmm. So.
Gotcha. Definitely. Are there any UT Tyler students here? One. All right, so Joel, me and Joel study engineering at University of Texas, San Antonio. I didn't know if you know this, but they pay like $20,000 for like 4 years, right?
Oh, wow.
Of a UT Tyler program.
Today?
And we pay like 20 grand a year at UTSA to get like an engineering degree there. Yeah. But I want to ask you real quick about like your path and the certifications that you've gotten. So you're a professional engineer. You also have an MBA. Can you kind of talk about those certifications and how they've helped you progress your career?
Yes, of course. So the PE, the professional engineering license, and the MBA, they complement each other, but they serve two different goals. The PE, that's obviously for my civil engineering background. So to be a professional civil engineer, you have to have graduated from an ABET accredited university, pass your fundamentals of engineering exam, gain 4 years of experience, then take the professional engineering exam, and then apply for your license. So there's a lot of barriers to entry with the whole civil area. And so I did that. You need that because you can't seal plans that you design for construction without it, right? And if you can't seal it, you can't build it. And the reason we need a seal is because the public utilizes the things that we design and build, right? Your roads, bridges, flood mitigation systems, right? Dams. So that's the PE side. The MBA, that's because I guess throughout my career, my interests started changing, like I mentioned earlier. and I kind of wanted to pivot more towards the business side, business development. So that's why I went back to school and got my MBA. And it's helped out for sure. It's opened some doors that I don't think would have opened if I didn't have that graduate degree. I'm not sure.
Do you think you would have gone from like civil engineer to project engineer / manager without the MBA, or?
I think within the first 2-3 years of designing as a civil engineer, like an engineer in training in EIT, I kind of knew that I didn't want to continue that technical route.
Yeah.
And I just I had already a feeling that I was going to go towards the management route for sure.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. So now let's get into communities and finding your tribe. So I think, like I said before, I think events like this and getting plugged into the right organizations is really important. National Society of Black Engineers has a huge presence, pretty much on every major campus in this country. They also have like the biggest career fair, I think, every year, where people get job offers on the spot. Yeah. And it's pretty crazy how many people I know that are part of NSBE that have been able to progress their career at a rapid pace. Tiana, you're also a part of the professional chapter of NSBE at HP. Can you kind of talk about NSBE and the importance that it's had on your career?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, I was never one of the students that got a job on the spot. So don't be, discouraged when you go up there and you don't get one and you see everybody else get one. But regardless of the fact, so I didn't know anything about NSBE until I got into college. When I got into college, I was in a bridging summer engineering program, and they introduced NSBE to us during the program. One of my favorite librarians from my high school, I went to Thurgood Marshall High School, and she told me about NSBE. So my freshman year, I was like, you know what, I might as well do it. I always was like on student council, different things like that within my school. I always had a leadership position. So I was like, let me just transition to something that would benefit my future. So came in my freshman year. I always kind of liked, like I said, to be a leader. So I went for the leadership team for the freshmen. So I served VP my freshman year. My sophomore and junior year, I served programs chair, which really helped me get my internship, because my first internship, I was programs chair for NSBE. So kind of what I done with that was I was able to bring companies to campus and them do things just like this. So we were like besties, basically. So I would talk to them every day, email them every day, and they just kind of fell in love with my personality. And that's one thing, as being an engineer, you also have to have a good personality. We need to be able to talk. We need to be able to laugh. We don't need to always be strategic all the time. So with that, being programs chair, like I said, they brought in my interviews and different things like that. And then my senior year, I served president, and I completely changed the game of NSBE at Prairie View A&M University. And I still go back today and do different things with them. So with NSBE, it really taught me how to talk to people. I always knew how to talk, but not as well as I do right now. And just knowing different things, like how to look at a resume. I can look at a resume in 1 second and see if it's not good or not, type of deal. Also mock interviews, and just being able to help, going out into the community and being able to do different things. Like we were at House of Help and things like that almost like every other week. So it just kind of taught me how to be outside of my book self and become better soft-skilled wise. And I do encourage anybody to get inside of NSBE or any other organization that will benefit you. I tell people all the time, leave the B alone in NSBE. It was started by 6 black men that went to Purdue University in 1975, so that's where the name came from. But the name kind of switched, but black is still in it, of course, because that's what they specialize in. But I don't really think the race thing is a big deal. Anybody should be able to get into NSBE because it teaches you so much things to be able to benefit your future. So definitely get involved in organizations. If you're not comfortable with being on the leadership team, that's okay. At least be active in the organization, because having that on your resume will be able to set you apart. My first internship I got because I was VP for NSBE my freshman year, and then was serving in positions. Me and Adu, we done a coding test. We literally were neck and neck, but because I was in NSBE and I showed leadership skills, that was why I got my first internship.
That's a great point. And to piggyback off the point, NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, I promise you, it's like the most accepting organization. We had an Asian guy in our chapter at University of Texas, San Antonio. So if you show up and you're not black, they're not gonna kick you out.
Definitely
they're gonna
not.
welcome you in, and you'll be more than welcome to be a part of the organization. And then, like you said, like get plugged in. If you feel like you're a woman and you want to get into Society of Women Engineers or SWE,
Yep.
get a
Ship.
part of it.
All of that. Yep.
Exactly. If they don't have a chapter, make a chapter. Like,
Definitely.
that's going to look
Definitely.
even better for you to say, hey, like I am a founding member of SWE or SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, or whatever the case may be. So be active.
Definitely.
All right, cool. Let's go on to the next one. So also, Danyal, you already kind of talked about Side Project Society. Can you kind of talk about how important it is, or how being a part of a group of individuals that have a similar passion in terms of like starting a side hustle or a side project, how that kind of helps you as a professional and throughout your career?
Yeah, it helps a lot, right? So I didn't realize this until very recently in my career, but you don't have to do it alone. There's other people that are in the same boat as you, and you might as well, you know, get together with them, and maybe someone has already been through the struggles you've been through. Find that community, find that group, and try to learn from it. There's this thing where, you know, there's like hustle culture, like, oh, you got to do this on your own, you got to study on your own, you have to, you know, do all this by yourself, but really it sucks. And the people that are involved in the communities get ahead a lot further, not just in their personal lives, but also professionally, it helps. You know, it's like I was at a speaker event a few months back, and he said something to me about how most jobs aren't, the world isn't a meritocracy, right? The best developer is not always going to get the promotion, they're not always going to get the job. Sometimes it comes down to, do people like you, right? Or do people know you? That's a really, really big thing. Like, I know we don't want to believe it, but you know, it's a real thing. If some VP at a big company is hiring, he's going to ask his friends, is like, hey, do you know anyone that would be a good fit, before he goes and posts that job on Indeed. If you're not in a community or a group, you're missing out on those opportunities. Like, I'm only here today because of Side Project Society. You know, one of the founders met Andrew, and then you know, told him about me, and then told him about this opportunity. Like, I'm only here because of that. Without that, I would just be at home working right now. So this is a lot more fun. I prefer to be here.
Definitely.
But yeah, you know, the world works like that. You have to know people in order to get those good opportunities and hear about things that are happening, versus just posting for or applying to jobs online, Indeed, LinkedIn. Those are great, but those aren't the good jobs. The good jobs are the ones that aren't posted yet. People are looking to hire, but they're gonna reach out to their network first before they go there. So a community like Side Project Society or wherever is gonna be really important for getting ahead in your career.
That's so true. So I think a lot of people have the same mindset. When they go into college, they think, hey, I just need a 4.0 and then my life is set, easy as cake. But you'll meet a lot of 2.5, 2.0 GPA students that get a better job.
Exactly.
They know how to talk.
Exactly. So having a mouthpiece, being able to be personable, likable, communicate, both from a technical standpoint and from just having meetings or whatever, is so important. So if anybody else had anything to add, but I love that point that you made. Cool. So real quick, I did throw some other organizations on the board if you want to take a picture or scan the QR code. We already talked about SPS quite a bit. Free Code Camp, I keep talking about them. I love that organization. They're in the middle. They meet up, I think, once a month at Improvement. You can scan the QR code and sign up for the meetup.com. And then also some of the organizations we already mentioned, NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. Joel was a part of American Society of Civil Engineers, and then also Society of Women Engineers is available as well. But whole point, get plugged in, get active somewhere. It's gonna make your life so much easier, I promise. So I know a lot of us were like taught in high school or even in college that like, you gotta work on your own assignment, like don't partner with other people, but have the complete opposite mindset when it comes to your career. You need to be working and talking to as many people as you can. All right, so Joel, Danyal kind of mentioned it, like it's not a meritocracy. I pulled a statistic from Google, 70% of jobs that are filled are not actually advertised. And we've kind of, even as friends, kind of tried to help each other out through our careers and everything like that. Can you kind of talk about how being a part of a community like ASCE, but then also even more importantly, networking has been so influential throughout your career?
Yeah, kind of like they mentioned, right? Just being involved has made a big difference in my career. As an undergrad, I was involved with the College of Engineering Ambassadors. I think so was Andrew, right? And I was also involved with the Leadership Center. I understand not all universities have a Leadership Center, but maybe they have something similar to it. And I actually landed my 2 internships through a connection that I had through the Leadership Center. So they weren't even plugged into like the engineering world. It was just like, hey, I have a friend that works at XYZ company. They're looking for an intern, right? So I definitely benefited from that and interacting with like non-engineering majors and to help me improve on those communication skills as well, those soft skills like they mentioned.
That's a great point. And basically, you want to be at the top of people's minds when they hear of an opportunity. So me knowing Joel is a civil engineer, if I hear about a job opportunity for a civil engineer, guess who's first person on my radar? Is Joel. Same thing with anybody else. So you need to be getting out there, letting people know what you do, making a name for yourself, networking, so that when these opportunities come available, people are automatically thinking about you. And this next question is kind of a toss-up for Tiana and Danyal. But what are some things that people can do to kind of increase their probability of landing a job? What are some like tips or tricks you guys would recommend? I know that's open-ended.
I guess, yeah, I'll take it first. So with me being at HP now and kind of being on the hiring side since I'm at NSB and things like that, I kind of changed my perspective of this question. So I guess I'll give it now on my professional side. So I think the main thing to kind of set you apart that I realized is be honest about what you know and what you don't know. Because the things that are on your resume, yeah, you can fluff them, things like that. But when you come to the interview and you're acting like you know everything to people that really know something, it makes you look really bad. So for example, like when I brought in the intern last summer, the intern that we brought in was super honest about a lot of stuff she did not know and got the job, because we're looking for sponges. We're not looking for people that are polished already. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with being polished, but if you're talking to somebody full time, I mean, we've already got our degrees, we have years behind us. You can't fluff around us type of deal. And also just knowing how to, you know, put your resume together, I think is a very, very big deal as well. And knowing to be able to present your resume, right when you present it, have a nice elevator pitch. I think elevator pitches are very important. Within 30 seconds, I should at least be able to know your name, major, your interests, and what you want to do for my company. Also, when you go to companies, always research the company. Even at career fairs, when I went to NSB's career fair, it was a huge building. It was companies I never even heard of. I would stand in line and research the company, and when I talked to them, they could have thought I just loved the company so much. But that's a very good skill that you need to have, because some people will come up there and, oh, well, can you tell me about your company? It's like, whoa, you're here right now. I thought you would maybe know something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are just some key advices and tips that I definitely think is very important.
Can I add on something? So
Okay.
I've been interviewing graduate engineers all year, and to me, the ones that stand out the most are the ones that are excited and are showing you that they want it. So be engaged, be there, right? And just smile and just make sure that whoever's interviewing you knows that you really want this position. Don't go in there kind of like passive, like, you know, you pitch me why I should work at your company, right? Mm-hmm. So that sometimes that's a vibe you may get at some interviews or interactions at career fairs. So just have that energy with you.
You guys took all the good points. Now I don't know what I'm gonna say. No, really good stuff. Totally agree with, like, when you're in an interview and they're asking you a question and you might sort of know it, you might know a little bit about it, you heard about the term, but you don't know the details. Do not BS it. They're gonna know right away. Like, I've been on the other side, and I can tell when someone doesn't know what they're talking about. Like it's really obvious. When someone knows and the other person doesn't, it's clear as day. So actually, at Improving, during the technical interview, there was a few things that came up, and I said, I don't know. And after I got hired, they told me that was one of the reasons they really liked me, because I was just really honest. I was like, I don't know that. I mean, this is what I think it might be, but I really don't know. Honesty goes a long way, because you don't want to hire someone that's always going to be lying to you, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, how can you work with someone that's just going to be like lying about status updates on stuff? So you want honesty. That's a really big thing. I would say also, just particularly for software developers, if you really want to stand out, have some sort of portfolio. Have something that shows that you can do it, right? Like, the resume really doesn't mean anything unless you can say, like, hey, I can do all this stuff that's on my resume. I use these skills to build this website or this app or whatever. That goes a long way. Definitely, if you link your GitHub or whatever, or your personal portfolio site to your resume or LinkedIn, people are going to look at it, and might just be the first thing that they look at. The resume, other than that, doesn't really mean anything. And also just scrub your social media accounts. I Google everyone, so
I do too.
yeah, exactly. It's a natural urge to Google. So if you have Twitter posts from like 10 years ago where you were saying some stuff that you probably wouldn't say these days, go and delete those posts.
Yes.
Don't. Everyone, all your history is out there. So just make sure it's what you want it to be and not something that'll hurt you.
That's a huge point, and that all kind of ties into like branding in a sense. I'll tell you a quick story. Like when I got my first job out of college, we had like a year-end evaluation, and I just wanted to know like why my manager hired me, because I got the job. I applied through an online portal. Usually when you apply through an online portal, it's like somebody just literally throws your resume in the trash. It seems like that, but he picked me, and I'm like, all right, cool. I wanted to know like a year-end. He's like, yo, you're killing it. You're doing great. I wanted to know why did he hire me, and so I asked him like, can I ask you like what was it? And so literally, he said, everybody that I interviewed, I Google. And he said, when I Googled your name, I found an article that somebody wrote up about you because you won a scholarship. And in the scholarship, or in the article, the interview, they asked me, what do I want to do? And I said, I want to work for General Motors, Boeing, or Ford. I want to be the next car designer or airplane designer. And so this hiring manager, he just sees this young kid with an engineering degree, and he reads the article. He's thinking, okay, great, I want to give him a chance. So keep that in mind. So on the flip side, if I Google you and I find like some ratchetness or some crazy post online, like it's not gonna play to your benefit. So make sure whatever you thought was cool and funny and cute at 18 is not cute to the professional world. So make sure you go ahead and scrub it, delete it, whatever. Yeah. All right?
I just want to add, it's about controlling the narrative, right? There's a lot of information, and so I've made this mistake. I wasn't big on social media or LinkedIn or anything, and I thought like, oh, I'm just a private person, I don't want all my data out there. I thought I was playing it neutral. No, you're hurting yourself. If you don't put information out there that you want people to see, they're gonna, assume the worst, or they're gonna see stuff that you don't want them to see. So you want them, when they Google your name, you want that first page to say all the good stuff about you. Okay, so control the narrative.
Great. Hey, quick question: how many of you guys have like a LinkedIn profile?
That's good.
Okay, I'm surprised. I'm happy. All right, dope. So make sure y'all are active on LinkedIn.
Definitely.
Put your best foot forward. Like you said, controlling the narrative. Like even if you post about, hey, what are y'all interested in? Computer science, engineering? How many engineering people? Raise your hand. All right, majority. Computer science people, raise your hand. Okay, dope. All right, so yeah, control the narrative. So like Figma was just purchased for $20 billion. So like you may want to post an article, oh, did y'all see this Figma? Da-da-da-da. Like if you don't know what Figma is, look it up. But like anything relevant to your industry or what you want to do, like post about it, make a brief statement about it, and like get people knowing like what you're interested in. So be active on LinkedIn. If you have a resume, post it on LinkedIn, post it on Indeed. Also, there's some different things you can prepare for technical interviews, especially if you're going the software engineering route, like Carrot, LeetCode, HackerRank. You can also check out different company reviews and salary on Glassdoor.com. All that good stuff. So make sure you basically take advantage of the opportunity and prepare and put your best foot forward. This question, I kind of put Danyal, but it's kind of for everybody as we're coming close to the end. But Danyal, if you want to kick it off, what would you do differently looking back at your career? What would you have done differently, either in college, career-wise, whatever?
I would have definitely leaned on the communities around me more. I missed out on that. For some reason, it was in my head, I have to do this by myself. I don't know where I got that from, but it stuck. It wasn't until I realized like there's other people that want to help me and that can help me that I realized like, hey, this really accelerates my career a lot. On that same note, find mentors, people that want to help you, that have already done it, they're really good at what they do. That's like boosting your career in a way that you can't even, you can't predict where you will end up from it, but it's by far the best thing you can do. Find mentors, someone that is willing to guide you, and it'll take you really far. And then also just social media, being more active on social media. I think controlling the narrative, I speak from experience when I say I didn't do that. So definitely you want to take advantage of that.
Gotcha. Joel, Tiana, you guys want to add anything on this one?
Ask a lot of questions. Make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Be honest with yourself. If you think you may not like the path you're in or the career you're pursuing, just be real with yourself and make changes. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, not because someone's expecting you to pursue a certain path, because I think that's the way you'll be happy, right? You know, if not, you'll be miserable. So don't do that to yourself.
Great point.
If anything, I would have two things to say. First thing would be, I wish I would have got a little bit closer to my professors. I did have good relationship with my professors and still kind of do, but I think the relationships could have been a little bit better with coming to like maybe placing me somewhere in like a research program or maybe doing different things, because I had some friends that were really close to professors that, you know, the professors sent them different ways. Your professors know a lot of things and know a lot of people that you probably would never know. So that's one thing. And also the second thing, just kind of on a personal level, is when I started my summer engineering program, we had a professor, his name was Dr. Kirby, and he said, y'all will not be able to be an engineer and be in a relationship. And I did not, it went in one ear out the other, but that's another thing I definitely would have listened to is relationships and dealing with engineering. Everybody's different, but sometimes your time can be very taken up. You can be very, you know, like distracted and things like that, depending on what's going on, especially if your significant other is not in your same major. Engineering is a very, very technical, very time-consuming major. And literally, once I got single, my GPA boosted like crazy. So
Yeah,
I'm just being personal.
I was single all throughout my undergrad, so
yeah, because it's like, yeah,
my
that's
GPA
all.
was good.
Gotcha.
Life advice.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have been in a
keep it real.
relationship.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just being for
that's
real.
good, yeah.
So, but no, those are all great points. And I think one of the really big advantages that you guys have being here at HCC compared to U of H or Rice is you might not think about it, but to Tiana's point about getting to know your professors, a lot of your professors are still practicing engineers or software engineers or whatever. They may even have their own business. Whereas a lot of times if you go to like U of H or UTSA, these guys have been professors their whole life. They did an undergrad, a PhD, and they went straight to a research lab.
Yep.
And so they don't have the network that can lead you to having a job opportunity. So definitely ask questions like Joel said, be at the office hours, get to know your professors in and out. So again, when it goes back to controlling your narrative and being at the top of their mind, if something comes up, you want them to think of you first. So keep that in mind. And then this one, the last question, is kind of similar to the previous question, but just wanted to kind of throw it out there. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you guys wish somebody would have told you, like now at this point when you were in college?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, I wish someone had told me to take advantage of the resources around you. This is the last time you'll ever be around this many people your age or at the same stage in your career. Like, once you get into the real world, everyone's at different levels. You'll be working with someone that's, 60 years old and been working for 40 years, and then you'll be working with another person that's at your same experience level, people that have been working for 5 years. Like, it's so diverse, and, this is probably the last time you guys will ever be in this sort of collaborative environment with people that are so like-minded. So take advantage of that, and also what the schools can offer you. There's a lot of free programs that are really great. HEC is putting this together. This is wonderful. Every school is doing something. Take advantage of those things, and you guys apparently already are, so great.
Amazing. All right, that concludes the panel. I really appreciate all you guys coming out to support, and I appreciate these three panelists for showing up. I really encourage you guys to not let them get out of here without first speaking to them. So take advantage. We kind of talked on controlling the narrative, building your network. Make sure you take advantage of all the advice we've given you guys and talk to these individuals. Even if it's just connecting with them on LinkedIn, even if it's asking them a question you didn't want to ask out in public, but definitely I encourage you guys to connect with them. And there may be a couple of recruiters in the room as well, so network with people that you don't know in here as well. So that concludes it, but I want to give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask. Anybody have any questions for us? Nothing? Y'all don't want to know how much money y'all gonna make when y'all graduate or nothing? No questions? We got one in the back and then we got two up here.
How much money will I make when I graduate?
A lot.
Yeah, definitely. All depends though, but I mean, to be honest with this society, I mean, hey, you should always have a minimum and always know how to negotiate when you get your offer letter. That's something very important. Know how to negotiate. You can always get paid more if you can prove you can be paid more. So.
Yeah. Real quick, what do you want to do? Like, what's your interest?
I'm majoring in electrical engineering, so I hope to go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good area.
I got paid, I don't know if anybody's willing to share. I got paid 73 out of college at General Motors, like entry level. They offered me 70, I asked for 80. They said we'll do 73. And then I got like $10,000 increase every year for like 2 years. And then they gave you like a relocation bonus, which is like a 5-figure check, which is really pretty cool. So it's a lot of monetarily, there's a lot of reasons to go the route you're going.
That's the good side of it.
That is.
Oh yeah, he has a different story. Go ahead, Danyal.
They paid me $40,000, and I thought they were stupid because they're paying me to code. I was so happy I was going to work for free. You know, I loved it. So it's the flip side of things, and so you know, it all depends on what you bring to the table. And you know, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to show for it. So. You know, definitely build up your resume, your portfolio, whatever you can to let them know, like, hey, you're worth it. That'll open up the better jobs and whatnot.
Definitely. Yeah, the bonuses are great and crazy. My first bonus, I was like, whoa. I was like 23. So.
I think, well, we had two up here in the front. Y'all have this, and then we'll go to you in the back. We have one?
Yeah, I have a question about like relocating. And, like, how would you go about doing it? Like, you want to work in Austin or San Francisco or?
Yeah, so.
I'd recommend getting a job first before you move, unless you're comfortable working something like part-time or something that's like more so retail. But like, let's say, what do you want to do?
I'm saying computer science.
Computer science, okay.
I can kind of give some background on that. So my first two internships were out of state, so Las Vegas, and I was in Silicon Valley, the second one. The first one, they, of course, I got my flight paid for, and you know, they paid me enough for lodging, but and relocation and things like that. But what I would say is, what you need to do is, since you're computer science, math should be there. So kind of see where you're from. So Texas, the minimum wage, and compare to what they're paying you. And if it's neck and neck when you convert it, I wouldn't go for it. If the relocation is not, what I done was I would add up my hourly pay that I would get for the internship throughout the whole entire summer, like add it up. And if my relocation wasn't like 10 to 15% of that, I wasn't gonna take it. Because it's like technically, being away, I'm very close to my family. It's just me, my mom, my dad, my sister. It's always been like that. And when I went away from them, it really made me feel some type of way because I was so used to being around them. So it was kind of uncomfortable. But of course, being uncomfortable is when I strive the most. But since that was my first internship, it was a very much adjustment. And if you're going far away and not getting paid, struggling as an intern is not fun. Like when I was in California and I worked for McAfee, I think they got us a flight out there. They didn't tell us where we could stay. I had to find a Facebook group. I was like straggling, like my first month out in California, I didn't have any money. My parents were sending me money because my check wasn't there yet, you know, things like that. So always do your math, always be smart in your decisions. And that's one thing I wish I would have done too, was kind of slow down and really kind of focused on things like that, like relocation and things like that. But I didn't really have anybody to tell me that, so I had to kind of experience that on my own. But those are some things that I would definitely tell my younger self when it comes to relocation.
So was your question about how to find jobs and how to interview, like in a different city, or was it relocate? Like what was it specifically?
Yeah, I was thinking about like how you find jobs.
She has better experience than I do, but I did interview for one job in Austin when I was still living here. I was like, I want to move to Austin. And so I had a few interviews lined up, and I drove to Austin for this one interview. After I did they'll do like the screening, or they're not just gonna fly you out or ask you to show up in person like right away.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll go through like maybe 1 or 2 rounds of like screening, technical interview, whatever. So I went for the on-site, and you know, I just drove there. It was a day trip. I drove there, did the interview, and then drove back. It ended up being a weird experience because I had. When I was there, they told me on the spot, like, you know what, we love you, you got the job. I was like, great. I was driving home excited, listening to my favorite music. It was a great time. I get home the next day, and the recruiter's like, hey, actually, it turns out they're gonna go in a different direction. I was like, great. Wow. So I just drove up there for no reason. But yeah, I mean, it can be like that. So it can be tricky, but you might wanna group your interviews together. Like if you're gonna be looking for a job in Austin, for example, try to get like 3 or 4 of them at once. So like it's like a thing that you can just knock them out one by one.
That's a great point. We had some in the back. Anybody had a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So as for computer science and programming, there are so many questions that I have, but I think the most important one would be, do you think which one is better, like learning more programming languages or getting more experience or projects under your belt?
Oh, no, just more experience, for sure.
Definitely.
Learning more technologies is not gonna move the needle. I don't know that many technologies. Like, you wanna learn one or two, get really good at them, and you're gonna pick up other things naturally as a part of that when you work on projects. So definitely, you need to have deeper experience that rather than, like
Yeah, be a
more shallow.
master at something. Be a master at some type of coding language for sure. Because when you go to interviews, they ask you what's your most comfortable language, and whatever coding question they give you, you have to be able to code in the language that you're comfortable in. So that's where that mastering comes from. You master that one language and rock it out. So.
Which language do you guys use currently, and which one did you start with?
I started with C#, .NET. I was a back-end developer, but lately it's all been JavaScript, React. I'm a front-end guy now. I love it. I love JavaScript. I didn't always. I used to hate JavaScript. I thought it was stupid, but now it's great. It's the best. You can do anything in the world with JavaScript. It's really popular. All the jobs are looking for it. So, yeah.
I started with C++. Didn't like it at all. And so currently right now, more JavaScript for sure. JavaScript, just like Danyal was saying here, I really liked it. I had my first experience with it in my first internship doing React.js as well. And to me, it's beautiful, honestly. So.
Nice.
I agree.
Any other questions? We got one in the back, and then we'll come to her in the front.
I did recall that you all said, or kind of mentioned that when it comes to experience will kind of trump over the college degree. So I was just kind of curious, in that case, how relevant would a college degree be, or how relevant has it been in your career?
That's a good one. It helped me a lot because I was actually influential in my schoolwork and what I'd done outside, so it benefited me. But I know some people with the college degree that didn't graduate and get a job, and so they done side work and things like that, and that put them where they needed to be. So I feel like it's all about how you apply yourself in what you're doing. Because my first mentor, he dropped out of school, started his own business, and was making money. Companies were literally just bringing him in everywhere, being a contractor, and now he just got his degree. So it's like, if you go to school and you do what you need to do, that's fine. But I can say that college does kind of hinder the side projects and the beast that you can be. You see what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think all things equal, if there was another guy just like you and he didn't have a college degree and you had one, they'd pick the guy with the degree, right? The degree shows that you were able to do this, you're invested. It shows that you know a certain amount of things versus it's an unknown with the next guy, right? And also, like you said, taking advantage of the resources around you. Colleges do a really good job of giving you the tools you need, so yeah.
I think that's a great point. And Joel, I don't know if you want to chime in about like what you learn in school versus actually using in the field. Okay. But like the degree is really like just a certification that like, hey, this person is smart enough to learn.
Yeah.
Like if you're an engineer and you're doing circuits, or if you're a mechanical engineer and doing spring and mass damper systems or thermodynamics or integrals, we don't see none of that in the real world, at least depending on if you're going for like a more project management role. But you still have to get through that stuff to get to the job. Joel, I don't know if that's the same in the civil world though.
Yeah, I would add on, so we were in grad school, we used to just say plug and chug, right? Like we have our equations, you put in input and you get an output. So that's really easy to do, anybody can do that, right? But it's understanding what the equation's doing, right? And understanding that like out in the real world after you graduate, there's software, there's programs, there's things already, systems set already that are gonna, that are created to solve the problems that your branch of engineering is trying to solve. So it's more about understanding that the output makes sense, right?
100%.
Yeah.
We'll go to the lady in the red shirt. She had a question, and you, and then there's one over here.
Okay, so I'm interested in UI UX design. I was wondering what's the best way to find the best mentor and gain experience to give you the best shot at apprenticeships and internships? Because from what I understand, it's really hard to get into that.
It's a good question.
That is.
Really good question.
There's definitely communities out there, people that are really into UI, UX. So I'm not sure what those are off the top, but I know they exist. Definitely look for those in your local area. See if you can attend like an in-person event that builds stronger relationships typically. There's also online communities that you can join, and those will be helpful too. Maybe not as much, but they can maybe guide you in the right direction. Yeah, that's where I would start. Look for the in-person communities where these people might be. If you have a job in mind that you like, maybe go look on their LinkedIn page or look at the people that have that place as a job, and you can filter through the LinkedIn list and see what, if there are UI, UX people at that company, and maybe just even, cold message them. Like message them and just say like, hey, I want to do this. Like do your elevator pitch like she mentioned, like, say your name, what you're interested in, where you're at, and what you want to do. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, when you tell people you're a college student, like, for some reason that drops everyone's defense. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll help you. Like, you could literally get away with murder as a college student by messaging people. So take advantage of that. Say, hey, I'm a college student. Like, people instantly want to help. So definitely find people that might be doing something you're interested in and message them. I know if someone messaged me, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out. I'll even jump on a call with you. So, yeah, take advantage of that.
Okay, in the engineering world, right? The engineering world, we know that a lot of people, when they become engineers, that's their career. So let's talk about the competition. If you're trying to advance and get to that spot, how hard is it for you to advance? Or you have to put in a lot of years for you?
Yeah. I think I'll kind of start off. I think it depends. When I first got to General Motors, I had a mentor and I had a manager, and I'm glad they gave me a mentor. And like literally me and my mentor would take walks throughout the facilities every day and kind of talk just in general, but then literally he would pull up the organization chart. So like they list every single employee within the company, and we would literally go one by one. And he's been there for 25 years. So he'd be like, hey, you see this guy right here, John? He's 5 years older than you. He's now a program manager. That's right below the chief engineer. So that means like he manages an entire budget for a Cadillac Escalade or whatever the case may be. And we would talk about like, hey, how do I go from here to there in such a fast pace? And really, I think a big part of it is the networking that we talked about. The other thing the advice that I was given is that what you do outside of 9 to 5 will serve you a lot better than what you do between 9 to 5. And so what I mean by that is like, we kind of talked about all these people being involved in different organizations, starting their own side projects or getting an MBA and all that kind of stuff. Those are the things that are going to differentiate you from the competition. If you're just a person that goes to work, you put your head down for 8 hours a day, you do your work, and then you clock out and you're out, like you make a good living, you'll have a good job, but don't be surprised if you don't progress as fast. Whereas if you're putting in those after hours, we used to have volunteer like opportunities with United Way. So we would partner with United Way. If you're being involved in that, if you're being involved with organizations where you go out to local middle schools and high schools, or even come out to host or talk on a panel like this, like all those things are things that's gonna benefit you throughout your career. So I would say really like, of course, doing good at your job between 9 to 5, but then also taking it a step beyond that and looking for opportunities to kind of step out and be a step above the competition.
Because at times, like some companies, they pay you to go to school, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, Joel, did you pay for the MBA or did you do that on your own?
They did not do that on my own.
Okay, but there are some companies that do pay for MBAs if you want to do that. If let's say you're an engineer, I don't know if it's relevant for software engineers, but if you're like a mechanical or electrical engineer and you want to get like a master's in whatever, like a lot of companies will pay for stuff like that because they're going to view it as an investment to help their company. So yeah, you're at this level, but hey, if he goes get this master's degree in electrical engineering, then hey, he'll help us make X amount more money, or hey, he can be a senior or a manager or whatever. So there are opportunities to kind of continue your education through your employer, and they'll pay for it a lot of times.
And just one thing that I have to say to kind of just continue that when it comes to the competition. So what I do is I'm the youngest person on my team, besides the intern that just got converted over, but technically the youngest person. And anytime we have all employee meetings and things like that, and they talk about tools, what I do is I go out and learn them, and I come and teach them to my team. So like with Miro, Power BI, Power Automate, like I went out and I learned that on my own and brought it back to my team to try to teach them what it was. So we use Miro in meetings, we do different things like that. So you always want to like sharpen your iron and be as sharp as possible. And then of course, as me being the youngest person on my team, like my manager, he's been at HP 30 years, PM 22 years, things like that, to be able to influence senior people with new tech is something that you cannot beat. So that's just what you have to do as well. Just try your best to stay as competitive and as sharp as possible.
Yeah, so raise your hand basically when it's like, when they ask, hey, does somebody want to mentor the intern that's coming in this summer? Like, don't be in the back, like, I'm not going to deal with this kid. Like, raise your hand and sign up for it. Like, they're like, hey, we need somebody to go out to this middle school and teach the kids about gears or whatever. Volunteer, and then that'll help you in the end. We had a question over here.
Okay, so do we have any strategy to land on your first job if it requires some years of experience in the job description?
I honestly would say ignore it. Like if somebody, I think that's really a weed out. Like if you apply to a job and they're like, oh, you need 8 years of experience or whatever the case is, if you are able to see if you're able to do like the skills that are on there, so if they have a list of skills that you have on there or the type of tools that they need for you to use and you're aware of how to use them, I would say still apply at the end of the day. So once again, I think that's really just a weed out, and that's just my opinion.
I don't think, those are not hard set rules, right? When they say we want 10 years of experience with this technology, if you have 5 years but you're really, really good at it, they're not just gonna say, sorry, we're not gonna hire you. Like the years of experience is just, they're looking for how good you are. And so if you can prove that without having those exact year requirements, then you'll be fine.
And sometimes they copy paste job descriptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't let that discourage you.
We have a lot of stuff to learn, and sometimes we forget some of those stuff. Do you need to have all of them in mind in order to learn on the job?
It's like real life, right? You don't need to know everything all at once. In fact, in school you need to have things memorized. When you get in the real world, you just Google everything. That's another thing. You Google a lot.
Legit. Especially if you're a computer science major, like legit. If it's an error, I'm looking it up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So don't disqualify yourself. That's one thing I would say.
Yeah.
Let them tell you no. If you think you match 70% of the job description, put your name in the hat, and then let them to tell you, oh, no, you're not the one or whatever. Because the ideal case is that they have somebody with 8 to 10 years or whatever, but that's not always the case.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, is there like on-the-job trainings if you are being employed?
Being employed?
Like if you were selected to like be part of a team, is there like on-the-job training?
So any good job will not just throw you straight into the fire, right? They'll give you some training. They'll give you like a few weeks to ramp up, a month. Typically, the companies have onboarding processes. So when you get hired, they'll walk you through, like if you're becoming a software developer, they'll walk you through their code bases. They'll give you small tasks to like get going. They're not just gonna start giving you like the hardest stuff. But yeah, you get onboarded, and that's pretty much it. And you learn from the people around you too. It's not like, hey, you better figure this out, otherwise we're taking the offer back. So you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I can kind of say that during the internship, you'll be learning a lot more. It's a lot more hand-holding. And then when you get over to full time, it's really not like that as much because you're working with people that also have jobs to do themselves. So unless you're able to find somebody that's really, really fine with taking time out of their day to teach you something, you're gonna have to go and learn a lot on your own. So that's kind of like what I've done. I came into a team that really wasn't big on documentation. So it was kind of hard to ramp up, and we even had a meeting with another team trying to learn some of our things, and documentation just wasn't there. So if you do happen to be in a team like that, just always remember, learn your best way to learn. And that's what I had to learn in college, So if you're able to learn on your own, that's a very good tool as well.
Okay. All right, we'll take a couple more. We have one in the back.
I was curious, you mentioned while you were working in Silicon Valley, what was your experience there? Do you think Silicon Valley is still relevant, and was it a positive or negative experience?
It was, the only way I would say negative is because I really don't like gentrification a lot, and that's really what it was. And it was very sad to see because I would walk to the bus every day with the subway. That's how I got to and from my job. And they would always tell us, put your badges inside, don't let them see your badges, things like that, because people would get violent because Silicon Valley, they basically found a rural area in California. If you've ever been to Silicon Valley, it doesn't look pretty besides the engineering buildings. It doesn't. And they just built it up. So it was a lot of people that became homeless because they couldn't afford to live there anymore. So a lot of people are upset about that. So that was the only negative thing that I would say. Otherwise, on the positive side, it was a beautiful experience. I got to go to Apple Park. I mean, still to this day, I have dreams about it. It's crazy there. And it was good to know different people. Like, I linked up with interns that worked at LinkedIn, worked at Facebook, still know them today. So the networking out there is crazy. And I think it's definitely still relevant today.
Gotcha. We'll take one last one if there's one more. Anybody? No. Oh, you got in the back.
I did, on one of the earlier slides, it was talking about being a Scrum Master or like Agile and Scrum methodologies. How important would you say that is in the software development?
So it's pretty important. I'm actually, on my team, I'm the Scrum Master too, but it can be its own role too. On our team, they just didn't hire a Scrum Master. It's pretty important to understand the Agile process, but as a developer, I wouldn't say it's like something you have to like go and like study for or prepare too much. It's something that you'll naturally, every team like unfortunately does Agile in their own way. So you'll figure out how your team does it and you'll sort of just go with that. Yeah, it's not something you have to like worry about too much as a developer though.
Awesome. Well, that concludes the panel. I appreciate you guys for coming out. Clap it up for you panelists real quick.